An actor from iZombie revealed he was up for the role of Reed Richards, which reveals to us that maybe Disney was always intending on race swapping the smartest man in the Marvel universe. Let's talk about that on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and here with me is Mr. VashSky. Vash, are you a big comic book fan? Do you like the comic books?
I do like comic books on occasion, and you know what? Even though some of those stories are out there, they obviously have been turned into amazing examples in media and entertainment that have spanned across the globe and have been really phenomenal. So yeah, you could say I'm a big fan of comic books.
Yeah, I like comic books, especially when they go cosmic. I don't know why. I really like those cosmic stories, even though on the movie side, I tend towards the street level ones. Let's talk about one that I think is going to struggle to figure out what it needs to be here. Rahul Kohli talks about losing the Fantastic Four role of Reed Richards. Who eventually got the role of Reed Richards, Vash?
I believe it was one Pedro Pascal. Is that right?
Yep. It was Pedro Pascal. It is Pedro Pascal, I should say, in a movie that already has I don't want to say they've quite gender swapped the Silver Surfer, but they found a way to do the female version of the Silver Surfer. They're doing Shala Ball, and the actress, I believe she's from a show called Ozark, will be playing the Shala Ball version of the Silver Surfer. Of course, in that Shala Ball is Norrin Rad's girlfriend, lover, wife, depending on who's telling the story. He becomes the Silver Surfer because he makes a deal in order to save his planet. Shalabal is supposed to be the image of the person that he idealizes, and she's far off, and his thoughts are constantly with her. That idea that she brings back his humanity, because I want to say maybe her name is Alicia Masters. The Thing's girlfriend reminds the Silver Surfer of Shalabal, probably because they're both pretty or something. I don't know. Anyways, they changed the nature of that character by making her female, making the Silver Surfer into a female character. And now, and I don't want to say this changes the nature of the character, but it looks like Marvel might be very focused on the genders and the races of all of their characters. Rahul Kohli talks losing Fantastic Four role of Reed Richards, this by Armando Tinoco of Deadline. Rahul Kohli was close to joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe as the actor tried out for a role in the upcoming Fantastic Four. The actor from iZombie and The Fall of the House of Usher recently revealed he was being considered for the role of Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards. Yeah, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it, but I didn't get it, is the important thing. But on good days, I see the Constantine, Kohli said in an interview with Salam Nerds. I will flare up once and again, and I love all of them. On good days, you're like, man, I'm wanted. People really want to see. You're the guy that people will shout out for anything. He continues. On bad days, it's a reminder that you're not the guy. You're not there. These are the roles you'll never get. So it's sweet, and it's perspective. It's how you feel about yourself. Kohli talked about the Marvel role after it was noted fans had been suggesting him as part of their dream cast. Interesting. So this is actually multiple aspects of the Marvel universe that I see a problem with. First of all, Pedro Pascal, I notice he's not the traditional look for Reed Richards. He's a good actor. He's not what I generally associate with Reed Richards as far as personality goes. He tends to play. Have you watched Last of Us or Game of Thrones, Vash?
I've watched a little bit of Game of Thrones, but I haven't watched The Last of Us.
Can you speak to any of the characters that Pedro Pascal typically plays?
Yeah, well, I mean, I know him best from his Mandalorian character, and so they're a little bit more stoic, in my opinion, or reserved. I mean, obviously he's played a father figure, I suppose, in The Mandalorian, but he's not been, I think, in my mind, the embodiment of that Reed Richards character. So I think that's why a lot of people were a little bit hesitant and confused with the casting when initially hearing about it.
Right. And, you know, Marvel was always going to have a problem when they introduced Reed Richards, because there is this progression. If you, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, at least, if you have someone like Tony Stark, who is a genius, and then in the Avengers, he meets Bruce Banner, who is just as much of a genius. And by the time you get to Infinity War, they meet up with Shuri, who is in Wakanda, and she is even more of a genius than any of them. The idea that Reed Richards is the smartest person in the entire Marvel universe, in almost anyone that he's he's in. And that's actually part of his character, is that he's kind of arrogant. He's off in his own head. Maybe sometimes he can be a little bit problematic and arrogant because he knows better than anybody else, or at least he thinks he knows better than anybody else. And now what we're hearing from this Fantastic Four film is that it's actually going to center on the Invisible Girl, or the Invisible Woman, probably going to be the Invisible Woman. Even though she started out as the Invisible Girl here, which is, of course, Susan Storm. So it sounds like he is now a side character or a supporting character to a female lead. And depending on how Pedro Pascal plays it, if it's the kind of characters he tends to favor in his discourse online, it sounds like Reed is either going to be a problem or is going to be maybe one of those down on his luck guys, as opposed to, I don't know, Reed Richards. The original image of Reed Richards, when you look at those 1960s comic books where the Fantastic Four were introduced, is he's one of those guys. He's so white, he's even got a stripe of white hair on the side of his head. And kind of that classic 1960s house, I don't want to say house husband look, but they're a very classic look. You almost want to picture him with a cigar there. Maybe my ideas of the character are a little outdated. Of course, the other movies haven't done a good job of bringing him up to speed. Vash, how would you describe Reed Richards as a character?
Yeah, he's supposed to be this kind of paternal figure almost for the group, a person that some people can rely on, and especially the group members. That's why I thought John Krasinski was actually very appropriate for the role. I thought, okay, I think I can really get behind this. But again, upon hearing Pedro Pascal, that was a very surprising one. Now, I believe Vanessa Kirby is playing Sue Storm. Is that right?
Yep.
And so excellent casting there, I think, and I think she can really command the picture if they do decide to go in that direction. But if they make him the butt of the joke or take him down a notch, so to speak, right? I think that's going to be really disappointing. And when you consider the time period that this is supposed to be set at, it's supposed to be set in like what, 1960s or 70s,
what we're hearing.
right? It makes the Pedro Pascal casting all that more weird, I guess.
Yeah. Now there was one other aspect here, and I don't really care about anybody's race. I do care because Marvel really cares about people's race. But the other thing that I want to bring up, in Vash, you kind of came into it when you talked about John Krasinski being considered for the role. Kohli talked about the Marvel role after it was noted fans had been suggesting him as part of their dream cast. This is another thing that's coming up a lot more with Marvel films at this point, where it used to be that Marvel did their own thing, like Robert Downey Jr. playing Tony Stark. I don't think there was a big fan push for Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, but John Krasinski playing Fantastic Four, that was brought up for years, and then all of a sudden we see it in a film. And I'm trying to think of other examples of this, but it seems to come up more and more that these fan cast decisions are what is being made, as opposed to, or at least being considered, as opposed to, I don't know, going through the traditional casting process here. Vash, are fans pretty good at casting these roles for themselves?
I would think so. I don't remember any fans though.
Before you say that, let me ask you, should Taylor Swift play Dazzler?
Okay, I see your point here. Probably. Well, I don't know. I maybe she could pull it up. Maybe she can.
I pushed you into a corner there, didn't I?
Well, yeah, because I'm trying to remember, the instances in which fans have cast for these films and how successful or unsuccessful that was. I think I was just watching like a 90s casting of the Avengers. I think Tom Cruise, playing Tony Stark, and
Morgan Freeman playing Nick Fury. Yes, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, I do like that idea. Although
right. There's been some others
on the nose. Or Bryan Cranston playing Lex Luthor. That would be an idea of a fan cast. That, first of all, it's not a bad idea. It's maybe not the most inspired idea. Even Bryan Cranston was like, "Who's menacing and bald?" They can be a little obvious. This guy, I don't know enough about him, and I know that iZombie has a fan base. I really don't know anything about his acting ability, so he could be great in the role. I don't know, but the thing that worries me more is that Marvel is still going with this idea that they need to be doing these diverse updates to everything, and the thing that worries me the most is that they might still be putting diversity above story. We obviously covered on this channel not that long ago John Musker talking about how the current Disney company is putting diversity and messaging above story. A great example from that. John Musker was involved in Beauty and the Beast, if I'm not mistaken, and in that movie, you have a super patriarchal Gaston and a very feminist for the time Belle. And if it was about how Gaston is the patriarchy and about how Belle is a feminist, then it would be an insufferable story, as we can see from the Beauty and the Beast that was made starring Emma Watson and Luke Evans and Dan Stevens. But instead, they made a good film that happens to have those things in it. They put character and story and excellent music first. So, diversity and challenging ideas, that's not bad. But I worry, I'm very concerned with Fantastic Four that while Marvel may be taking some steps in the right direction, they're still coming from it at this place where I think they've still got that grievance ideology in the back of their heads. Or maybe I'm just crazy. Vash, do you have anything you want to say before we wrap this up?
With the Marvel MCU's trajectory going forward, I just hope that they get back to the foundational principles that made this franchise the amazing cultural juggernaut that it was, right?
Yep.
And hopefully we get back to some of those tenets. It doesn't sound like it, though. It sounds like, no, we're going to be putting emphasis on race. We're going to be putting an emphasis on, immutable characteristics. And that historically hasn't been what people have sought in the MCU.
Right. That's right. These films, these Marvel Cinematic Universe films have made $30 billion at the box office. And I would encourage Disney to go back and find out where a majority of that money has been made and try to see what the difference is between those. It's not the race that's the issue. It's really not. But that being said, we want to throw this to our commenters. What do you think about this situation? What do you think about Marvel and whether or not they're taking a step in the right direction or whether or not we're just back to the same old silliness? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Like this video if you like this video, and consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.